Welcome to episode 49 of the Curios Cast. This week we're talking about the man Frane Selak, the world's luckiest, unluckiest man. Welcome back, George.
Hello, hello. Always a pleasure. A pleasure.
A pleasure.
A pleasure. And a pleasure.
We haven't got Rob with us this week. He's off doing Rob-related activities.
He's probably climbing or crashing his van or.
So we've had a couple. We've had a couple reviews come through since. I don't know. It was about 2 episodes ago. No, 2 or 3 episodes ago. 4 episodes ago, actually, where we had the discussion as to whether the common phrase is if it's nothing to be sneezed at or nothing to be sniffed at.
I believe that I was on the side of sneezed at.
You was on the, you was on the side of sneezed, and Rob was on the side of sniffed. And I didn't know because I feel like, you know, when you can't you can't think about it because you don't know because you're being influenced by what you hear in front of you. If someone says, "How do you pronounce this word?" and they say it, you kind of just think of it like that. So I wasn't sure. We've had 2 people write in and say, one is Mrs. Feet, who left a review saying, "This podcast is nothing to be sneezed at." There's a point for George there. And also, I reached DEFCON 10 several times in my youth. The trick is hydration and zinc supplements.
There you go.
For those who didn't hear the episode, whatever it was, DEFCON followed by a number refers to how many times you masturbate the day after being out drinking. So if you're hungover, masturbating, I guess, relieves that. And it's DEFCON 1, 2, 3, however many times you need to go that day. Mrs. Feet has reached DEFCON 10 several times. So fucking props to you.
Yeah, well done. I mean, I couldn't do it.
But then we did have another review. This one's from a long-time listener and friend of the podcast, Juppalup, who says,
Juppers.
for fans of No Such Thing as Fish. So for anyone who doesn't know, No Such Thing as Fish is another podcast. I haven't personally listened to it, but I've heard it's good. Basically comedy podcast. I think they do a similar thing to us where we just kind of chat about shit, basically. But yeah, it's a nice review. 5 stars. It says, "Lads, thank you for saving my sanity on the long 4-hour drive from Maidstone to Bradford. I caught up on a load of recent episodes on the journey, and I laughed out loud many times. God knows what the other drivers thought was happening in my car. I was equally nearly sick at some of the stories, which was interesting, going 70 on the motorway. What a rush. If you're a fan of No Such Thing as Fish, or just generally sitting around chatting about anything and everything with your mates, then this is the podcast for you. Oh, and it's definitely not to be sniffed at."
He was doing so well.
So we're torn.
I think that maybe it's an American versus English thing. You know, like some phrases are different in American English as opposed to British English, or like British culture versus American culture.
Yeah, I think I Googled it after that recording, but obviously it was a few weeks ago, so I can't remember. But I'm pretty sure you can just use, but it's any. Like some people say, some people have heard sniff, some people have heard sneezed. And yeah, I don't know whether it's a English versus American thing, or if it's maybe just like more generalized locations than that. Like, you know, when we spoke about cheesy bugs and people call them different things, literally just a couple counties over or something. Yeah, but maybe it's the same. I don't know.
Well, I guess we can agree on the fact that Rob's wrong, because he's just wrong.
Because he's not here to argue back.
Here, so he's
so
incorrect.
Yeah, it's sneezed. What did you say?
I said sneezed. Nothing to be sneezed at.
See, I don't think I've ever used that phrase, so I don't.
Yeah,
I've probably heard it, but I reckon I've maybe heard both. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think it's a one's more common in America, so maybe you see it in films or you see it in TV shows, and one is more common in the UK. That's that's my theory on it. Or maybe it's just like a. Do you remember we spoke about the Berenstain Bears?
Oh yeah, that's the Mandela effect.
Like the Mandela effect. Maybe this is another Mandela effect. Who
maybe.
knows? Yeah,
we'll never know.
Mandela effect, if it is.
If you feel passionately on this topic about whether it's nothing to be sniffed at or sneezed at, the only way to have a say in this argument is to leave us a review. 5 stars. The more stars you give, the more we take your argument into account.
Yeah, okay? That is true.
It's either 5 stars or your comment is worthless to us. So leave us a review and tell us whether our podcast is nothing to be sneezed at or sniffed at. We'd massively appreciate it.
Even if you don't listen to the podcast on a platform where you can leave a review, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Just go on to
head on over, yeah.
Pop us a little review on there. It helps. You can't do it on Spotify and was it Overcast? I don't think you can do reviews and stuff on there.
No, head on over to somewhere you can review a podcast and just spend a minute. Click that 5 stars. Write something nice for us.
Write on Twitter. Send an email to your local MP. All that stuff. By the way, we should have. You should ask Mr. Sneeze what he thinks if it's nothing to be sneezed at or sniffed at.
Oh, the sneeze man. Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to reach back out. He did message me actually. So he found the YouTube video. Oh shit! I've deleted Twitter off my phone, so I can't find a DM. But he wrote to me and said how much he enjoyed the video. He said, "Hi Tom, I just saw the YouTube video you posted earlier this month and wanted to thank you. It was a really nice summary of what sneezecount is about and why, against all the odds, it turns out to be more interesting than anyone might have imagined. I actually found your description quite moving. Thank you for reminding me why I carry on with the nonsense. Right at this moment, unfortunately, the website is down. I tried to update WordPress and it broke. Just trying to get that fixed this weekend, hopefully back up soon. Still need to do the big update on the sneezes. Still got too much work to do."
That's nice.
So yeah. Thanks,
Were you listening? What was his name?
Peter. Yes.
If you're listening, Peter, it was a pleasure listening about your sneezes.
Yeah.
And if you want to come on and talk about it, then let us know. You're always welcome.
Yep.
You could do a live sneeze. Maybe you could do a live sneeze on air.
Maybe, yeah. If we've got him for an hour or so, then there's I don't know what the odds would be. We could calculate the odds, but I'm not going to do it.
Or you get a bit of pepper under his nose or something.
Yeah, that gave him a strong sneeze that time, didn't it?
Yeah.
So, this week we're talking about Frane Selak, who is an elderly Croatian music teacher. And he has been dubbed the world's most luckiest man, or the unluckiest man.
Okay.
Whichever way round you see it. So he was born in June 1929. So he's old as fuck now. He's 92 or something.
Technical term.
Yeah. And he gained attention for his many brushes with death. Now, his first brush with death was January, doesn't say what year. 1962. He was 32 years old, so he'd gone a fair while without anything serious happening. Got into his early 30s, and he was going from Sarajevo to Dubrovnik on a cold winter day, when suddenly the train in which he was travelling derailed because of a fault with the line. This made the train crash into an icy river. 17 passengers unfortunately died in the train crash, and of course drowned in the icy river. Luckily, Frane was pulled out by someone. He did suffer a broken arm and hypothermia, but he survived. That was his first brush with death.
So would you say at this point, is he lucky or unlucky?
I think that's the thing. It's unlucky that you crash, right? But then you're lucky to survive and get pulled out.
Yeah.
So it is tough. Now, his next one. So I think at this point, maybe more lucky than unlucky. You know,
I'd say so. Yeah,
it's a major incident that you've just been involved with, but quite a lot of people get involved in crashes and disasters. So he's not exceptionally unlucky at this point. The next year, in 1963, Frane got to know that his mother was ill, creating an emergency to him, which required him to fly from Zagreb to Rijeka. It was his first ever aeroplane ride. Obviously, it's the 60s. Not that many people were flying regularly.
Mm.
And the flight was fully booked, but he somehow persuaded the airline to allow him to sit in the rear of the plane along with the flight attendants. So obviously couldn't get away with that now.
Yeah.
But it was almost like he wasn't meant to be on that flight. The flight was fully booked. It wasn't for him. But his mother was ill. He needed to fly, so they let him get on a plane, go sit at the back with the flight attendants. Midway, both the engines stopped working and the cabin pressure dropped. Frane was blown out of a broken door while the plane crashed. Yep. So he got thrown out of the plane. The plane crashed and 19 people on board were killed.
Jesus.
And Frane, who was sucked out of the plane without a parachute, but it says here, by God's grace, he miraculously landed on a haystack.
Oh, come on.
Which saved his life with just some minor injuries.
That's like a cartoon, landing on a haystack.
Yeah.
Did he land like head first with just his feet were poking out the top of the haystack?
And like a cow was just like nearby.
and then it's a close up of his face, and he's all dizzy, and he spits some hay out or something. Yeah. Hay sticking out of his hair.
So yeah, not only was that the first time he'd ever flown by a plane, it was the last time he'd ever flown
surprised
by a plane.
Blown out of a malfunctioned door.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
So, that was 1962, 1963.
I mean, now that's unlucky, but then also lucky that he got blown out of the plane
that's
door.
So
and
lucky, yeah.
And lucky that he landed in a haystack. So
yeah.
He's now lucky. He's more lucky than unlucky at this point.
Yeah, because I feel like
in that situation,
the chances of landing in a haystack are probably a lot smaller than just being involved in a plane crash, right?
I can't remember the last time I saw a haystack.
No.
So I'd say he's lucky at this point.
Yeah. So 1964, 1965, not much happened. Nothing notable.
Took it easy.
Yeah, he probably just stayed indoors, to be honest. That's what I'd do. But 3 years after the plane crash in 1966, Frane was riding another form of transport, a bus. So he'd given up on trains and he'd given up on planes, and he thought, well, fuck it, I'll get on a bus. What could happen? Nothing
bad ever happens on a bus.
Nah. Apart from this bus, which skidded off of the road and crashed into a river. That's another one.
Ridiculous.
4 passengers drowned and died. But Frane, however, swam to the shore and survived with just some minor bruises.
This is like a little cartoon character, like in the Beano or something. There'd be like a unlucky Alan or something.
Yeah.
And there'd be like a little strip where he's falling out of a window or falling in a haystack.
Yeah, he's like fucking Mr. Bump. Yeah. So yeah, and there's a little side note here that says, after having such bad experiences with public transport, which is sort of understating it a bit, Frane decided to travel mostly by his car.
Smart move.
However, even that didn't work out in his case. So this was 4 years after the bus crash in 1970. He was driving and his car caught fire. He was able to jump out of the moving vehicle seconds before the fuel tank exploded in front of his eyes. And there's a picture here of a car that's all blown up and burnt out. I don't know if it is actually the car or if they've just done that for, representation. Oh yeah, representational images. Okay. So that's not his car, but yeah, in 1970, driving along, he thought he was all safe in his car. You know, he's in control. No engines are gonna turn off and cause him to get sucked out of the plane.
Yeah.
There's no rivers to skid off and crash. No rails to derail yourself from. But no, it caught fire, and the fuel tank exploded. Luckily, he managed to jump out. Was
anyone else killed in it, or was it?
Doesn't say. So I think he was all right. You know, if
he's
it was
lucky.
just his car.
He's lucky again there. So another point for luck.
Yeah. And then another couple years went by. You know, he got his. He probably let his guard down at this point. You know, you go 2-3 years, you think, okay, everything's looking good. And in 1973, so 3 years after the previous car incident, another driving incident took place. The fuel pump on his car broke, causing engine fire to shoot out of the vents. So he's driving along. I don't know much about cars and how they work and stuff. I know how to use one, but I don't always know exactly what's going on inside. But the fuel pump, which I imagine is some kind of pump that pumps fuel, broke, and fire was shooting out of the air vents.
Jesus! So into
the cockpit. Yeah.
Cockpit.
Yeah. So he's
Why is it called a cockpit, by the way? There's no cocks in it, and it's not a pit.
I don't know.
Riddle me that.
I feel like I've looked this up before and, you know, remembered that knowledge for a week and then forgot.
Cockpit.
But
why is it called?
You looked that up. I'll read some more details here. So yeah, the fire was shooting out of the air vents. While his hair was completely fried off in this incident, he survived another near-death accident unharmed. So in that instance, no one died. He's probably fucked off 2 cars now. Like his first car blew up on him, and his second one just started spitting fire at him.
I mean, you wouldn't want to use that second car again, would you?
No. But he escaped completely unharmed, and it says no one else died in that one as well. So
unbelievable. How did you escape unharmed from that?
Yeah, well, it said his hair was completely fried off. So I imagine like maybe he probably maybe his skin was like a little bit burnt, but he wasn't he wasn't seriously injured or anything.
He had a nice tan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is a cockpit called a cockpit, George?
Apparently, it's derived from a nautical term, which was an area in the rear of the ship where the coxswain station was located. Oh. And the coxswain was the pilot of a smaller boat that could be dispatched from the ship to board another ship or to bring people ashore. Coxswain, in turn, derives from an Old English terms for boat servant. Coq is the French word for shell, and swain was Old English for boy or servant. So there you go.
Thank you, George.
Back to you, Tom.
So, after that instance there in 1973, he did actually have quite a break. We jumped forward to 1995. So, 22 years passed.
He just stayed in a room.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything for, 15 years?
Yeah. So, at this point, he's 60... What year was he born again? 1929 he was born, and it's now 1995. So he's like nearly 70, or maybe older than 70.
60s, maybe.
Fuck it, who knows? It's incalculable. There's no way of knowing that.
I can hear that dog in the background.
Oh, let me close the
triggering you. Although maybe the listeners would like to hear a dog.
No, that dog. I used to have the front bedroom of this house, and the only noise that you kind of hear is just people getting in their cars, leaving for work in the morning and stuff, and like the bin men that come to collect the bins. And then I moved into this back bedroom, and I thought, what noise is there possibly going to be? It's just people's back gardens. Sure, yeah, in the summer there'll be barbecues, there'll be people having fun and whatever. There's multiple houses. I don't even know where they are. I can't even see them. There's so many houses here. You know, it's like a dense suburb. And there's multiple people who just obviously lock their dog in the garden for like a couple hours at the time. And the dog just doesn't shut up barking. It just keeps barking over and over and over again. Next door neighbours just play music so loud with their door open, let their kids run about.
Fucking letting their kids run about in their own ass.
Yeah, it's there's so much noise that goes on in
That's what you get for living in Dagenham, mate.
I know. So where were we? We're in 1995. So he's already.
Were you alive then? Are you still just a twinkle in your dad's eye?
I was, yeah. I was born in 96. So
Jesus.
Just about. I was probably cooking up, you know.
Cooking.
Yeah, so we've had the train crash, the plane crash, the bus crash, the car explosion, and the car flamethrower incident. Now, in 1995, this one, there's not much detail to this, he was hit by a bus. That's all it says, he was hit by a bus. It says he claims to have been hit by a bus. Well, the way it's worded, he claims to have survived being hit by a bus. He clearly did survive because he's still here.
Yeah.
So was he hit by a bus or not? It's apparently he was just out walking in Zagreb and hit by a bus, but survived with minor injuries.
Well, I mean, we've all been hit by a bus and survived. Maybe he got bored. This is the point where he was like, I need to get back in the papers in.
Yeah, it's been like 20 years. Yeah. So clearly he was desperate because it only took him another year, 1996, to avoid a head-on collision with a United Nations truck while driving in the Croatian mountains. His car crashed into the guardrail and fell off the mountain 300 feet down. He somehow managed to jump out and hang on to a tree.
Oh, come on. This is ridiculous.
Living to tell the tale. So, yeah, you know, most people have probably seen what windy mountain roads look like. You know, you going around and you've, you know, got a drop on one side and the rest of the mountain on the other side. And he swerved to avoid a United Nations truck, crashed into the guardrail. Obviously, the guardrail didn't do the job of guarding, and he fell off the mountain. But I don't know how you'd even begin to do that if your car is falling. Like, first, if you have your seatbelt on, I'm buckling that. But opening the door or just jumping out a window, and then like, how do you even start that motion? But yeah, he managed.
I guess if it was like rolling slowly down the mountain, you could sort of dive out.
Yeah. But
I'm imagining in my head like a proper cartoon.
Yeah, in my head I'm picturing like Italian Job where they like drop the cars off the cliff. No, so that was his last almost deadly accident of his life.
That's 96, so he was
96.
Pretty old by that point as well, wasn't he? So he was
how did he do that? In his 70s, right?
20. What did you say?
1929, and that was 1996. Yeah, he would have been.
Yeah, so
60,
68.
Yeah.
No, 65 or something. 66. I don't know. In his
why
60s.
are we so bad at maths?
Well, I did added one up, so 1930 to 2070 minus
like 67,
4,
68, like
minus
depends.
5, 65. I think
it's
65. Depends on what month.
Depends on the month. See, you can't work these things out. So I mean, pretty impressive for someone of that age, however old it is. No one knows. Yeah. To jump out your car, hang onto a tree after, you know, crashing through a guardrail and falling off the mountain.
So at this point, he's train crash at first, and then
the
plane being blown out the plane, and then the bus.
Yep.
And then the two cars. And then the
hit by a bus.
The bus again.
Yeah.
And then this car. So that's seven incidents. And I'd say that so far he's still lucky rather than unlucky.
You reckon?
I'm calling him lucky.
Lucky.
Still.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, after dodging death for 7 times.
For 7 times?
Yeah, that's what it says, for 7 times. After dodging death for 7 times. That doesn't make sense.
Maybe the 7th time
it
meant...
Newsgram.com doesn't know what it...
Fucking Newsgram. Don't get me started on Newsgram.
In 2003, so 7 years after his last incident, he won the lottery at the age of 73. The amount was a whopping $1,110,000.
Jesus.
And I think that's in... Yeah, wait, where's this other article? Because it breaks it all down. So it was 900,000 euros, which is, $1.1 million. That is 700,000 pounds.
Nice.
2003, so, not as much now, like relatively, but still a hefty chunk. So that's more luck, I guess, right?
Yeah,
on
I'd say so, definitely.
Yeah. With his winnings, he bought a luxurious home, only to end up having a change of heart and selling it in 2010 so he could return and live a more humble life with his 5th wife.
Fifth wife,
yeah. I wonder if does he like divorce every time he has one of these near-death experiences. He has like an epiphany. He's like, "What am I doing with my life?" And he like divorces, goes on a bender.
Yeah, fucking... he's probably like blames the wife, saying that she's unlucky.
Yeah.
The fifth wife. Yeah, I wonder what happened to the wives. I hope they're all okay and they weren't in one of the passengers that died in this train crash or something.
Yeah. Maybe actually, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't say. He's kept that quiet. Sneaky Frane Selak.
Yeah, and then he said, there's a quote here that says, "All I need at my age is my Katerina." I guess his wife. Yeah, I guess his wife's name. "All I need at my age is my Katerina. Money would not change anything. When she arrived, I knew then that I really did have a charmed, blessed life."
That's very nice. It's a nice, happy ending.
Yeah, and then in the end, he spent the last of his winnings on a hip operation. And I
thought he was about to say hippopotamus then.
Spending the winnings on a hip operation and on a shrine to the Virgin Mary in thanks for his good fortune. I mean, yeah, I'm one of the least religious people you could come across, but maybe if I'd survived like the amount of near-death experiences that he had, you might start thinking, is there something going on? Yeah, is there some Virgin Mary looking out for me?
Or maybe God was having a laugh with him. He was sort of like his pranking him, pranking him, and then at the end he was like, "All right, fair enough. 5 marriages failed. You've almost died. Blah blah blah. Have a bit of money and just relax."
Yeah,
maybe at that point God was like, "I've went a bit too far with the cliff." Shit.
Now it's funny you said earlier about him sort of you picture like a cartoon in your head when you sort of read this story. This BBC article has drawn him as a cartoon. Well, so actually what happened was, let me try and read this. He was basically he was unhappy that the way he was portrayed by an artist that drew him. So according to interviews he has given, 6 more brushes with death followed, blah blah blah, and it kind of recaps his stuff. So fell out of a plane, drove off a cliff, hit by a bus, won the lottery.
What is this cartoon? I love the one where he's in the tree. Yeah. He's like, looks really not bothered.
Yeah. So his story inspired an artist by the name David Ransom, an animator in New York whose company is called This and That Visuals. He says, "I was struggling to think of a new topic to do a video on, and Frano's story came to me. He told the BBC. He uploaded a 3-minute cartoon to YouTube at the start of May. It has been watched more than 1.2 million times, and it's titled "The Luckiest Unlucky Man to Ever Live." And there's a link if you want to see that. But according to reports in Croatia, the subject of the film is not impressed. The Zagreb-based Daily Jutarnji list asked for his reaction, and Selak did not sound like the happiest man in the world. He said, "The Americans have no idea," he complained. "They drew a moustache on me and mixed up all my accidents. Maybe they will earn big money while I live on a pension. At least send me $1,000. Which is a bit weird considering he gave up like loads of his money on. It says on the Wikipedia article that he decided to give most of the remaining money away to relatives and friends after deciding to live a frugal lifestyle. So, being upset that someone's making some revenue on drawing a cartoon of you, I don't get that.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
But yeah, he was. It seems like he was mostly offended at the fact he drew a moustache on him.
That's just a weird thing to. I mean, it doesn't look anything like him. I've looked up him, and it really doesn't look anything like him. So, I mean, I could see being offended at not having a true representation. But I've also looked him up, and there's a picture of him just sitting in a pair of pants and a vest. So, does he want him to draw him like that? You know?
Oh yeah, that's a good photo. Why is he
brilliant?
Why is he?
Looks like he's got a tiger behind him as well, like a stuffed a tiger toy on the weird.
Yeah, I tried to find a contact for Frane because I thought it'd be great if I could get him on Zoom or something and ask him a couple of questions. I don't know if I would need a translator or something, and like what would be involved. How do you get like a 90-year-old man on Zoom who might not speak English? But I can't even find where to start.
Then that would be beyond anything you've ever done.
Yeah,
good old Fran.
Yeah. Oh, there's actually
Is he on TikTok?
Well, no. When you type in his name on Google, it shows you like his Wikipedia article, and then it shows available on YouTube, Spotify, YouTube Music, and Apple Music. And I thought, what? Has he got an album out or something? And it's just there is an artist called Frane Selak, all one word. So I think he's a Portuguese rapper. So I reckon he's just taken the name as like from he was inspired by it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Frane, if you're listening, I'd love to sit and have a little chat. We could set the record straight on what this this horrific representation of you in this and that visuals. Is there any comments on this YouTube video? That'd be funny.
There was one actually I saw, which was him eating a sandwich. Hang on, wait. It says, then one day Frank was making a ham and cheese. I don't know why it's called Frank.
Yeah, it's not Frank.
Then one day Frane was making a ham and cheese sandwich when all of a sudden the sandwich exploded, killing both his neighbours and his pet dog. Frank survived. Frane survived. So basically, death pulled off a bunch of assassination attempts but failed and paid Frane $1 million.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's a good story.
Someone's also put, Grim Reapers hate him. Find out this one trick to live forever.
That's good.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. You got any near-death experiences?
I don't think so. I have to have a think. I mean, there was one segue that I wanted to mention earlier, which was about the haystack.
Yeah.
And it was a story that my dad always used to tell me when he was younger. He went out drinking one night and didn't want to go home to his parents because, my gran and granddad would have probably given him a bit of stick for being drunk or whatever. So he found a haystack and slept in a haystack overnight instead of going home.
Oh.
So they must exist, I don't know if haystacks do still exist. I grew up in a rural area, and I don't really remember seeing haystacks. But
No.
So yeah, that was it. I don't think I've had any near-death experiences though. Not that I'm aware of.
No, yeah, you never know. Maybe like a bullet flew by the back of your head and you didn't know about it or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those war stories, me in Iraq. I don't think anything bad's ever happened. I mean, I've fallen out of trees and stuff, and nothing like serious.
When I was a kid, we used to play a game. It was called "Who Can Jump Out the Tree the Highest," and and we would just climb up the trees and jump out, and then the next person has to climb a little bit higher.
A little bit higher,
out. Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit, and you just go to the next branch or like higher up on that branch and jump and until the first person pushes out.
I mean that's a good.
That's not a near-death experience, but just because you said about falling out of trees, good game.
I don't think I'll be any good at that now.
No, probably not.
Be too scared now.
When was the last time you tried to climb a tree?
Probably like 10 years ago, I reckon. Not for a while.
I've done it about a year ago.
Yeah,
and it was I only done it because I think Rosie was doubting my tree climbing abilities, and because every now and again we'll be out on a walk and you see a tree and you're like, that is a great tree climbing tree. Like you can just see like where you like the little footholes, and you can see where you would go as a kid. But obviously, you don't just run and start climbing trees now. And I think I said that's a good tree climbing tree, and she said, "Go on then." And I almost felt, I said no. She's like, "Oh, what? You can't climb it?" Or I don't know how the conversation went, but in the end, I was like, "Fine, I'll climb it." And it was a lot more tiring than it used to be when I was 11. You know, it was tough.
Whereas when I was younger, I guess maybe 15, one of my school friends came round to my house. We used to go out and play in the fields around where I lived. And there was this tree by an old, like, abandoned dump. Well, it wasn't really a dump. It was just like probably used to be a house there, and it was just full of bricks and stuff. And it had all grown around. There's these trees, and I always used to climb up this tree, and we had like a little den and stuff. So we was climbing this tree, probably 15 feet up, I'd say 20 feet up. And one side of the tree was like all dead. So I knew, right, you just can't go around there because none of the branches can hold your weight.
Yeah.
So my friend was climbing the tree and he went round that side. Branch just like gave way and he fell like probably 20, 25 feet. Broke his wrists, broke his back. He was like fucked up. So I like shit myself. You know, I guess probably 14 or so. I had to run and tried to call an ambulance at... in fact, I ran... I can't remember what I did first. I ran to my granddad's house because it was quite close to my granddad's, and he wasn't in. So I went to neighbours and called an ambulance, and then ran to my house, got my mum, and then went back. And I remember being really embarrassed because the two paramedics were two women, and they were like quite attractive paramedics. And I was like in tears. I was like a 15. I'm sure I was like 15 or 16. Yeah. And yeah, he had to go to hospital, and he was like in a back brace for a long time. Like he was off school for a good few months.
Shit.
And so yeah, that's my tree climbing story. And that was probably one of the last times I climbed a tree. Sort of put me off a bit.
There's a so I've just found, going off on a tangent through like Frane's Wikipedia. There's a Wikipedia page or a category which is just fall survivors. So the following 10 pages in this category out of 10, blah blah blah. And it's a list of people who have fallen extreme heights. And there's a subcategory here which is highest falls survived without a parachute. And there's a list of sort of like 7-8 people here. The highest one being Vesna Volovic, a Serbian flight attendant, holds the Guinness World Record for surviving the highest fall without a parachute. 10,000 meters. That's 33,000 feet. She landed. It says likely landed in part of in part of fuselage in heavy wooded and snow-covered mountainside. Suffered many bone fractures. Oh, the plane got bombed. Wow. And yeah, Bear Grylls is on here.
What was that name, sorry?
Vesna Vulovic.
Oh yeah, Jesus. 10,000 meters, 33. That's like how high is Everest?
I don't know.
That's higher than Everest, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, I thought like 10,000 meters, isn't it? Just like, isn't that just?
It's just a bit higher than Everest. It's 29.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh no, wait. It's elevation
8,800 meters.
29,000 feet, and she fell. Yeah.
So higher than Everest.
And she survived.
That's mad. When was that? Can I get her on?
Oh, she died in 2016.
Shit.
Aged 66. So how did she survive? She just.
Well, I think they don't know. I think I've read about this in Guinness World Record books before, and I think she like passed out. Obviously, your body goes all limp, which helps, and they reckon she might have still been in a bit of fuselage, so maybe she would like, that might have softened some of the impact, and it was like in a wooded area in somewhere that's snowy, so maybe like the trees slowed it down and then the snow slowed it down.
Okay, yeah.
So she's kind of cheating a bit, really.
I remember there was like a murder case of some husband who the husband and his wife were like skydivers, they're like going skydiving, and he tampered with her parachute, but she survived. She survived the fall. She might even be on that list, maybe. I'm not too sure. I guess it might not be the highest.
Yeah, and she technically did have a parachute.
God, it's mental. Imagine falling that high.
Yeah, it'd be mad.
I mean, I wonder if you, if maybe you just black out, or whether you'd remember the impact.
I think, I think some people do just black out. I know, like Bear Grylls is on this list. He's the fifth one down, because he was in the army and he was a paratrooper, so he was, parachuting all the time and shit. And his parachute like failed to deploy, and I think the emergency backup one failed as well. Yeah, and he was obviously awake the whole time because he's trying to fucking fix it. Like he's a professional. He's not going to pass out, so he's just trying to fix it all. And then he basically landed on his back, and he said like the parachute, like the backpack, broke the fall, which
also broke his back.
But yeah, his back got fucked up.
That's mental. So my granddad actually survived a fall when his parachute. There was an incident. He was a paratrooper. So after he wasn't in the Second World War, but he like in the 60s or whatever it was, 60s, 70s, he was a paratrooper. Like in Egypt and shit, and they were doing a practice drop in Germany, and his parachute, for whatever reason, he landed on the canopy of the parachute below. So someone went out before him, and then he landed on that parachute. Obviously got tangled up. His parachute then failed. Managed to separate from the guy that he'd landed on, but fell, fractured broke his leg or both legs, and I think he broke his pelvis and stuff.
Shit.
I don't know how high it was. It probably wasn't that high because it was just like a fixed line one, and then was in hospital in Germany for however long. But so he survived a parachute failure.
Pretty sick.
And I've never really asked him what thoughts went through his mind. I think he did tell me once, but I think he said he just doesn't really remember. The incident.
Yeah, I imagine it just goes so quick as well. Like the adrenaline is just fucking going that you don't really know what happened.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just mental. Like I think the other guy was okay. Like his parachute managed to keep his parachute alive. It didn't like collapse, and he flew off. And my granddad just fell and fucked his leg up.
Yeah, the only like similar thing that I've got, it didn't happen directly to me, but I was involved. It was when I was 16, 17 maybe, and we went like skiing and snowboarding with the school, and so it was in Austria. And again, anyone who's been through like or seen just like mountain roads, that's basically what ski resorts are like, where you've just got these windy paths that go down. And obviously, because you're going down the side of a mountain, one side of the path is going up the mountain, so it's basically just like a wall of cliff and ice, and then the other one is a drop down to the side. And there was this sort of pass that we went through one day, and me and a couple of my mates, we stopped and we looked over the edge, and we was like, "Fuck, that is so far down." And I imagine in the summer, this kind of thing we was looking over would be like a waterfall, because you could see all the rocks at the bottom and like a clearing in the trees. And it seems like that would be a waterfall in the summer, and then in the winter it's all frozen up and you can just ski and snowboard right over it. And we were standing there and we were literally saying, if you fall off that, you are fucked. You are dead. Like, there's nothing. You just be fucked on those rocks. The next day, or it might have even been the same day and later on, we're snowboarding down that same pass. And we're not great snowboarders. We're like 16, 17, and we've done it for like a week. And me and my mate are sort of just going along side by side. And this big group of skiers, they were going so fast and they just went in between the two of us. But like, it caused us both to fall over because they sort of just pushed us out of the way. Yeah. And I fell to one side, but I fell on the side where there was like a wall, and I literally like fell into the wall. And as I'm laying there on the floor, I landed on my back. I look up and I see my mate with his arms and legs like spread wide like a starfish, like spinning and sliding on the floor, and he just goes over the edge. Like he's just gone. And I remember like, and the skiers just fucked off. They just went. They didn't even stop. And I was just standing. I was sitting there, and there's no one around now. Everyone's gone. I'm like, fuck. And I remember just going. I was like, David. I was like, David. And I just heard him go, yeah. I was like, oh. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, fuck it. At least he's alive. I crawl over. I look over the edge, and there's like a maybe like 5-6 feet down. There's a little ledge. And he's literally sitting on the ledge with his legs hanging over the edge. Like he basically just fell off, and you could see the marks in the snow, like where his hands like stopped him. And he literally he's landed on his ass, and his feet are dangling over the edge. And then there's like a 200 feet drop, like you're dead. And that's his mental. Feet were hanging off the edge, and he was so fucking scared, like he couldn't move. So I had to like hang over the edge, and I grabbed his his rucksack and just pulled him back. And then he had to like take his board off and climb up and stuff. It was a fucking nightmare. And we caught up with all like, all of our classmates and everything. Like, where were you? We were like, David fell off the edge. Remember that like waterfall thing? He fell off the edge, and everyone was just like not interested. Like we were like, obviously, fuck, he nearly died, and everyone's like, crazy. And it's just like no one gave a shit.
Fucking pricks. Everything goes when you're skiing and snowboarding. Like, people, that's mental though. Stuff like that's horrible when you think about it. Like another inch, or like if he was going like a tiny bit quicker. Done.
We didn't really like, and obviously, I guess at the time our adrenaline's all like, and we're kids, so we're just that's crazy. And it wasn't until I think it was later that night we were sitting, like the teachers had taken us to a pub because you can drink when you're 16, and so we were sitting there. I was like, you nearly died earlier. He's like, yeah, I've been thinking about it. I was like, that was fucking close. He's like, yeah, it was
mental.
Good time.
Just before you were speaking about it, I was reading another one of the people on that list. And this guy, Nicholas Alcamaid, during the war, he was a tail gunner in a plane that got shot down. And instead of burning to death, he was like, I'm just going to jump. Like, preferred just to die, hitting the ground, then burn to death. And he fell 18,000 feet into pine trees. So his fall was broken by pine trees and soft snow cover. And he only had a sprained ankle. So he fell 18,000 feet and he had a sprained ankle. And then the Germans gave him a certificate because he fell out of a plane and survived. So he got captured by the Germans, and they were so impressed that they gave him a certificate. That's just unbelievable, isn't it?
That's nice. I like a bit of good sportsmanship, you know?
Yeah. And he was a celebrated prisoner of war, apparently, until he got released.
Nice.
But, nuts.
Sweet. Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you
What are
enjoyed
your
that.
close encounters with death? Tell us your luckiest events.
Yeah, leave a review. Tell us the most horrific moments of your life. Times that you've maybe been just as lucky as Frane. And we'll read them out.
Yeah, or unlucky as Frane.
Yeah.
Whichever way you look at it.
But most importantly, let us know whether it is something to be sneezed at or sniffed at.
You know what it is, listeners.
Tune in next week for episode 50 of the Curios Cast. It's a big number.
Shit.
It's half of 100, which is an even bigger number.
Shit.
It's going to be a good episode. We got something special in store for you. Yeah, join us next week.
Yeah.
See you, George.
All right, see you, Tom. I'm going to go and get a lottery ticket and try my luck.
Curios Cast, episode 49.